Hey everyone, this is Jen and you're watching BPD Woman. On this channel, you will learn to live more effectively with your borderline personality disorder. It's my goal to share my experiences in managing, living with, and recovering from my borderline personality disorder, using my own examples, wisdom, experience, knowledge, combined with DBT skills and the therapy skills that I have learned along the way. My goal is to help you achieve your goals, whether they are in life, love, relationships, money, emotional stability. You are in the right place. If getting well and being more effective is your goal, then you are here in the right place. And if you're a family member or a loved one that's interested in positive approaches to borderline personality disorder, you are also in the right place. And I have a playlist just for you entitled Vids for the Family. My goal is to use a solution-based approach, examining everyday problems or situations that might become problematic or more stressful for those of us with borderline personality disorder or emotional dysregulation disorder, EUPD, which is a synonym for BPD, gaining traction in the psychological world. While I am not a doctor or a therapist, I can answer one question that most of those folks cannot, which is, what is it like to have borderline personality disorder? I was diagnosed over 20 years ago, and since then I've committed myself to therapy, about a half dozen rounds of DBT, one-on-one sessions, group sessions, reading workbooks, reading at-home books. You get the idea. I'm very committed. So if that sounds good to you, please hit subscribe and the bell below so you never miss a beat. I produce anywhere from 3 to 6 videos each week, and I would love you to check them out. So today we're going to pick up with something that I haven't done in a while, which is continue our module section on DBT. For those of you who are unfamiliar with DBT, DBT stands for Dialectical Behavior Therapy. It was designed in 1993 by Marsha Linehan. It is who also lives with borderline personality disorder and is a psychologist. And she developed this modality, which has proven extremely effective in helping those with BPD live more effective lives, or what you might call recovered symptoms. So there are 4 modules, and they are mindfulness, interpersonal effectiveness, emotional regulation, and distress tolerance. DBT is taught in a classroom setting with DBT trained psychologists. It is about a 24-week program, and they suggest that you do 2 rounds back to back. The first round is just absorbing and learning the skills, and then the second round is designed for those skills to sort of take hold and become more ingrained. Practice makes perfect, right? And so DBT stands for Dialectical Behavior Therapy. Dialectical meaning the ability to see both sides of a coin. And that's important. Why? Because those of us with BPD, we use splitting, black and white thinking. Something's all good or all bad. We might idolize a person and then devalue a person. We have trouble living in that gray, ambiguous area. And so DBT is designed to help us remove our thinking from that and move into behaviors that are more effective. So I already have done a section on mindfulness. Check that out. I'll put up a link. There's a whole section out there about the mindfulness module. But now we're going to move into interpersonal effectiveness, which is one of my favorites. And just like last time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use screenshots from my DBT app, and I'll put up a screenshot here of what the app looks like. You can find it in any of your cell phone stores, so iPhone, App Store, or Google Play, Android. And this is the first skill of interpersonal effectiveness. Now, with this app, it's really great. It comes preloaded with the standard skills of DBT and gives a description of each one. Among other things, there's a journal. You can write diary cards. You can have them sent to you once a week through email. You can even have it sent to your therapist. And you can also modify it specifically and add in skills or things that might be helpful to your own recovery. But this first skill is something that is directly from the DBT literature. So I'm going to read it as I normally do. We're going to discuss why it's important, and then I'm going to give you a real world example. So prioritize goals. Interpersonal Effectiveness module, prioritize goals. Figure out what you want from a particular interpersonal interaction. You may need to get your goal met. You may want to have a better relationship. You may really want to work on your self-respect. In any of these situations, you need to make sure that you are clear on your own personal priorities. In general, there are any one of 3 priorities in an interpersonal interaction. If you're lucky, these 3 go together well, but you might notice that they are in conflict. During those times, you'll need to use your wise mind to act effectively. 1, objectives, getting what you need or want. 2, relationship. The relationship is most important to you. 3, self-respect, how you feel about yourself. Once you've determined what your priorities are in each of these categories, try to rank order them and act according to those rankings. So essentially, let's break this down. What this means is that in any interpersonal interaction, so a conversation, a boss-employee relationship, a girlfriend-boyfriend relationship, a parent-child relationship, there are 3 things at play to consider when you are going after a goal. Now, I always bring this up, well, not always, but a lot of my videos, I say you need to know what you want out of a personal interaction. I just created a video called 3 Questions I Ask Myself Before Making a Decision, and those 3 questions are, what am I feeling, what do I want, and what's the most effective way to go about that? And so prioritizing goals sort of works its way into this dynamic. How? Well, hopefully, as the app suggests, as the skill suggests, all 3 of these things, what you want, how the relationship plays out to you and your self-respect, hopefully they will all come together and be on the same plane. However, there are going to be times when one of these things is going to become more important to you, and you're going to have to understand what you want to rank them and then act accordingly. Now, why is this important? Oftentimes, those of us with BPD, we act upon impulse. We find it hard to live in ambiguity. We're not always sure of what we're feeling. We've been taught not to tap in or even to trust what we felt because we've been invalidated for so long. And so these are sort of rudimentary things that we might have learned in childhood or growing up with stable parents or parents that were there for us emotionally, but we didn't. But that's okay. We can learn them now. So objectives. So sometimes in a priority number 1 could be an objective. So sometimes you are out for something specific, getting what you want or need. So let's consider a job interview. Let's say you really want this job because you need the money. You are struggling financially. If you had your pick of the litter, perhaps you would not necessarily take this job the first tryout. But right now, let's just say we are, right? We're in an economic recession. And so it's really important that you have this job to get money coming in so you can support yourself, not become homeless, right? That might be the overarching objective, which is self-preservation, right? Roof over my head, food on my table, providing for my family or my pets or myself, etc., making sure my primary needs are met. So if you are in more of that kind of heightened, I wouldn't say desperate, but I would say important situation in your life, then getting the job may be more important to you than how you might feel about your self-respect. Meaning, that does not mean that you let people degrade you, but, perhaps this might not be a company that you fully agree with in terms of their ethics or morals or their message, right? Perhaps you start working for a company like Big Oil, but you are a very green person and you're a vegan and you don't believe in the use of fossil fuels. And so those 2 things might conflict and compete for your attention, right? So you have this, I believe in my ethics. I believe and not working for big oil. I believe in being green. However, I'm also really desperate for money right now, and this is the first job to come along in 6 months, and I have to take it, okay? It doesn't mean that you're necessarily betraying who you are, right? You don't have to betray who you are. But again, if your self-respect in that situation is more important than, say, your objective, so if your morals and your ethics about what you believe about big oil and being green supersedes the need for money, and you're willing to keep looking for another job, then again, that's a ranking that you'll have to act on. So in that situation, if the objective is more important to you, you will take the job for money. If your self-respect and how you want to feel about your own values and how you practice what you preach becomes more important, you will walk away from that job and look for something else. Okay, so that's one. All right, let's see. Okay, so that's objective. 2, relationship. So the relationship is most important to you. So let's say we are talking about a relationship that you have with a client, right? So I own my own business, and sometimes, well, in any relationship, when I establish with a client, it is always important to me that I give professional service, that I give 100% of myself, that I show up when I say that I'm going to show up, that I do what I say, that I deliver the product of what I deliver, that I say it's going to be delivered. And in keeping that relationship, right, and building that relationship, my goal is to have them be repeat customers, to have them think I'm valuable, to have them think that I'm professional and that I am not just a dog walker, but that I am a professional in a specialized, centralized niche for them. That's different than anything that they could get elsewhere. Now, the interesting thing about the relationship in this example becoming more important to me is that this actually works in perfectly with both my objectives and my self-respect. So remember, if you're lucky, the app says these 3 things will go together well, but you might notice that at times they are in conflict. In this instance, they would not be. Why? Because the relationship is important to me. I want to obtain clients, make them happy, keep them happy. What's my objective in doing that? Building my business, keeping them as recurring customers, having money coming in, being financially stable, providing for that roof over my head, providing for that food on my table. And in doing both of those things and in showing up on time and doing what I say I'm going to do, that gives me a lot of self-respect and mastery. And what does mastery and self-respect do when you're trying to recover from BPD? It helps you recover from BPD. The more mastery that you take, the more things that you work against your problematic behaviors, you will become more muscle memoried and in tune with those positive behaviors. So in that example, all 3 of those things become aligned. Now, I have also had using the same example of my clients that, in fact, I've talked about it in another video, that sometimes I've developed personal relationships over the course of a couple of years with some of my clients, and then those personal relationships turn sour, and I will try to continue giving service, right? But then over time, they are just treating me in such a way that goes against logic. It goes against not only my self-respect, but it becomes detrimental to my emotional state. I mean, I've talked about one client, and I forget which video it was now. I mean, there's been several, but she hung up the phone on me one day when we were talking as friends because I was crying. Didn't say anything, just simply hung up the phone, didn't want to be bothered, right? That was a moment for me that I am like, this is beyond doable for me. And then there was one more instance where she haggled with me about money, and even though I needed the money, the objective was important to me to have money coming in during an economic recession, my self-respect in that moment became number 1. So it went from 3 to number 1, and my self-respect said, this is not healthy, I will not tolerate this, goodbye, thank you. The objective just of getting money became less and less. I could replace that money. The urgency of my self-respect and my mental health took precedence. Okay. So that's sort of an instance where those things conflict. And even though I want all three at the same time, well, actually in that respect, you know, my relationship with her, I didn't really care where that went. I really didn't. If she wanted to leave, go. But in that, you know, in those two competing things, objectives and self-respect, my self-respect went right to the top. So there is an example. And obviously self-respect, you know, again, these three things all need to be looked at in a gray area, right? Remember that we are trying, as those of us with BPD, to break away our black and white thinking, and we're trying to go into that gray thinking, or what I call the colored spectrum thinking, right? It's not this or that, it's this and it's that, right? It's not good, it's not bad, it's good and it's bad, you know? I love this person and I'm pissed at them right now, right? So these three things hopefully are always in unison and in concert with each other. And I've heard in different classes, my DBT classes, you know, some people will be, you know, like the teacher, the psychologist would go around and say, you know, what's most important to you? What do you think of this skill? And I think some people have a issue or a problem combining these and thinking, well, my self-respect is always important. Like my self-respect dictates who I am all of the time in everything that I do. And I don't disagree. I think that all three of these priorities, objectives, relationships, self-respect, are always sort of tumbling around and competing. And no, it doesn't mean that, like, you know, because a relationship becomes more important to you in a particular setting that you somehow betray your self-respect. That's not exactly what this skill is saying. It's just saying that if the relationship becomes more important, you put more of your effort into maintaining that relationship. But it does not say anywhere in the skill that you must compromise another one of these. You know, for instance, let's say you have a landlord-tenant situation, right? And let's say you are not usually prone to yelling or arguing with someone, but you are ready to get out of this situation, this landlord-tenant situation, and you cannot stand your landlord, and you know they've done nothing but cause trouble for you, and now you just want your security deposit. So you don't care about your relationship with them anymore because you're not going to live there. You know, you want your money back, and that has become most important. And so you're like, you don't care if the relationship is free. You're like, give me my money back. I want my money back. If I don't get my money back, I'll take you to small claims court, right? Okay. So is that betraying your self-respect? I don't know. Like, that's up for you to decide. Gray area, right? My name is Jen. You've been watching BPD Woman. We've been talking about skill number 1, prioritizing goals in the Interpersonal Effectiveness module of DBT. I'm keen to hear what your thoughts are about this skill, if you've used them, how competing with these three priorities has helped or hurt you or made it confusing, or maybe it's been more helpful. I've got lots of other videos. Please go ahead and check out my playlist, DBT Skills Mindfulness. And until next time, in everything that you do and everything that you think and say, please try and be effective. Bye-bye.